and he had no skeletons in the closet. But the thing that I found the most shocking was I knew he had not gone to college, and he talked a lot about that, but he always intimated that he was just not that smart. But the real reason is because his parents didn't have any money. And in our family, they always would joke that, my great-grandfather was an entrepreneur. He was a gambler. If you have money, lose money. Have money, lose money. My grandfather was in high school. He paid rent to his family. He worked and he contributed to put food on the table. He was one of the boys, so he was really he had jobs from the time he was 7, 8 years old. And I did not realize how working class he was and how much he had to work, and that he had paid rent to his parents. He never ever talked about that because it was a point of pride for him, and that made me understand why he cares so much about the school system and master plan to try to make education more affordable, which is becoming more difficult these days. But yeah, that was a big surprise. And again, like I said, I didn't realize he had met Martin Luther King or Cesar Chavez. And so
that's the way that I introduce in my class when we talk about Edmund Pat Brown. I think that unfortunately that's one thing that we take it for granted. Being Californian, we just think that there's this 3-tier system and that's just the way it is everywhere, and it's not. I mean, our system is like the envy of a lot of states, right? I mean, I tell them, when I show in my class, here's the 122 community colleges in California. I said, we have more community colleges in California than some states have colleges all together.
Yes.
I mean, this is something that, as Californians, we just completely take for granted. We have no idea how that happened and how it continues. And that it is very expensive and that you need to fund it,
Yeah. And I mean, another thing that I learned after the documentary just last year, my grandfather was responsible for kind of funding many community colleges and something like 8 Cal State campuses and some UCs as well. So this was like his major passion. And the Cal State Dominguez Hills, have you guys heard of Cal State Dominguez Hills?
Yeah.
Right? You might have family members maybe going to go there.
Yeah.
It's a great school. It's a really good school. And so that campus was slotted to be in Palos Verdes. Do you guys know where Palos Verdes is? It's like it's by the beach. It's like super fancy neighborhood, like gigantic mansions. And after the Watts riots, my grandfather said, "We're not putting it in Palos Verdes. We're doing Cal State Dominguez Hills," and he moved it into that community because he really felt like this is, we need people to have services. He really heard that message. So I think that even though the system can feel really broken, there are ways to make changes. And now there's been something like 50,000 graduates from that school that have gone back into the community.
There was something recently about how Cal State Dominguez Hills is the #1 Cal State, #1 actually university in California that can track how many students it's taken out of poverty.
Yes.
Basically, students that go there lived in poverty, but because you go there, you get an education now, you're not in poverty. You can, be middle class. And I think that's what I saw recently.
Yeah.
There was something about how Cal State Dominguez Hills holds that distinction of being the #1 school in California that has been able to do that. Now that totally makes sense. I did not know. You can ask that.
Is it Cal State LA?
It's actually Cal State LA.
Yeah.
We have the
Cal
highest.
Dominguez still might be #2.
Yeah, Cal State LA has the highest rate of taking low-income students and turning them into median wage earners, or turning them into high wage earners. So, I'm a perfect example of that. And I have a lot of other friends who are now, going into their careers and they're making more than their parents are making. And they're able to take care of their families. And that's really important, and they're looking at the success rates. And it's a really big example.
Yeah.
And the master plan, that's what the master plan was supposed to do. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. That's something really unique. And if you look at that list and look at the schools that are on that list, many of the schools are in California.
Yeah. Hey, how many of you guys are working right now you already have jobs? Any of you guys? Okay. Yeah, well, you're lucky. You're lucky that you don't have to work and go to school, but it can be done, and I know a lot of students who do that. So, well, I think we should wrap up, but I want to just hang around a little bit if you want to ask me a question directly before you got to go to your next class. But I really want to encourage you all to, stick with your studies, and as irrelevant as some of your classes might seem, and as boring as some of them might seem, that just try to find the gems, because before you know it, you're going to be adults, and you're going to be making your way. So I really am excited for you. You guys have a great school. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much.